Hi there, Scorpio. Welcome to your mid-December 2024 General Tarot Update. It's Rena here. Pardon the trains, it's rush hour right now, so you might hear trains going by regularly. Oh my goodness, look at these swords. Let me pick an additional card here. Okay, I'm going to set this off to the side. Okay. So when I get the Ace of Swords as the central theme, or just when I get it in a reading altogether, I always think of someone who might have been in a bit of a fog about an issue, or maybe was lying to themselves. Maybe, when people lie to themselves, I don't really think they are doing so deliberately, at least not consciously. Well, that's deliberate, right? I think of it more as just kind of a force of habit, where a person creates this alternative narrative of what is going on to kind of protect themselves. But this is a card of seeing things clearly, of kind of the smoke clearing and everything becoming more like the truth is setting you free and allowing you to move on with your life. And the swords represent the air signs, so it has to do with the intellect. That's where the mind and seeing things clearly. But the three air signs are Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. And just to, let you know in case you don't, Aquarius is a fixed sign, so that there's like a friction when two signs square off to one another like they do. But that same friction can be physical attraction, and it can draw people together, just like the same applies to the opposite sign of Aquarius, Leo, with Scorpio. And I think even more so in a lot of cases you're drawn to Leo, but in this scenario we're looking at air sign energy. And air signs are very detached. So if you have been dealing with an air sign individual, you may have found yourself kind of intrigued by how they can kind of seem above it all. And maybe you're trying to win them over, and it becomes almost an obsession, Have you ever heard that one before, Scorpio, being obsessed over something? In the past position, we have the Knight of Pentacles. This is actually connected to your opposite sign of Taurus, so, that could be it. Now, actually, when did we have that full moon in Taurus? That was about a month ago. Yeah, that was a month ago. That was a super moon, too. So this is in the past position, so this may be talking about, when a certain thing happened, and that would be your 7th house of committed partnership. So, and Uranus was engaged with that too, so that could have been like a sudden revelation about what was really going on in your relationship. Suddenly acting on the relationship, maybe walking out, or walking in on something by surprise, being taken by surprise somehow. But it's like seeing the light coming out, and the higher message from that is 10 of Wands, is about carrying a load that may not be your own load. What that means, for instance, if this is related to the workplace, because actually with this card, the Knight of Pentacles, it can be somebody that has a really good work ethic. And it's one of those things with the Ace of Swords where, because I had this experience myself where you realize sometimes that you can do all the right things in a particular situation in life, and it doesn't really matter. Like, you're still going to be treated in a less than respectful way because it's not about that. It's about other things. Like, for instance, in the workplace, you might, be available all the time and try to help people out and do this and do that. And maybe the boss favors someone who isn't so cooperative. And a lot of times it's because that person may reflect the boss's way of, view of life or what have you. And same thing within relationships that you might have, personal relationships, where, you might be, even like in a family, you might take care of your parent and be the one that's always doing things for them, and yet that parent is favoring another sibling who doesn't take care of them, and you're like, why? And some of it is because you might be taking responsibility for something that doesn't belong to you, and maybe you're neglecting your own needs, and that's codependency, getting lost in other people's problems. So if that's a personal relationship, it could be along those lines. And I feel like it's kind of a dance because, we do want to care about other people, obviously, but sometimes it goes overboard, and then, there's no sense of respect towards the person who's helping. So keep that in mind, because maybe, well, I don't think you have to keep it in mind because you're already finding that out for yourself in one way or the other. What crosses you is the Two of Swords. So this is another card that I associate with denial because of the blindfold, where the person feels at the horns of a dilemma, like they have a choice to make, but I feel like in a lot of cases it's a false choice. It's a choice, I don't know if I should stay in this relationship or I should leave it, even though they feel like the other person's taking them for granted and isn't putting the same effort into the relationship as they are. That's another thing with this card. It's like you're kind of doing the heavy lifting in the relationship. And relationships to me are not tit for tat, where, it's like going to be just completely equal. That's a little bit tacky to look at relationships that way, in my opinion. But on the other hand, I certainly do think that relationships have to be mutual at some level. And when they're not, it just goes to show that there's something not, it's kind of like, what's that term where it's like an exchange of energy, where both parties are giving of themselves in their own way. And again, and we're not talking about tit for tat monetarily, or even like in terms of affection. Some people are not as expressive that way, but they still show that they love the other person. So we're not talking about that people have to be exactly the same in how they express things, but just the feeling that the other person really wants to be there. And I think sometimes Scorpio people, they impose their will on others. Part of being a fixed sign is the will. And unfortunately, people may feel like that's the way to get what they want. And it's really not. It's like strong-arming people. If you have to, manipulate or be very, I don't want to say intimidating, but just exert your will over someone in a relationship, it probably is not a relationship where there is mutual affection. And even on your end, it might be your ego that is being engaged rather than true love, because love to me is about freedom and not about trying to force someone into something, but allowing people to be who they are and express themselves how they are. And if you're ever like, there's a song, it's funny because I'm a Sagittarian, and if you know that group from the early 70s, Bread, there's a song by them called It Don't Matter to Me, which is one of their big hits. And it really expressed, in one of the lines, David Gates, I'm sure he wrote that song, and he's a Sagittarian, and it's that idea of, if you need some time to be free, this idea of not just kind of, there's an open door for you. So anyway, that's kind of like where I'm coming from, what love is about. It shouldn't be heavy. And Scorpio is just one of those signs you love so intensely that it's hard for you to have that detachment. And it's funny that we have these swords, because the swords are about that kind of emotional detachment. What's coming in is the Queen of Wands. And this is about, to me, ultimately, this is about your ability to generate self-love. And I associate this with Leo. It's supposed to be Sagittarius. I think it's Leo. It's the royalty, the sunflower, the idea of, your own sense of pride. Oh, it's funny that I did get the Strength card. That's Leo for sure. But I mean, like, when I say pride, I mean honor. And honoring yourself, meaning that you're not going to lower yourself. And this can be on the job too. You're not going to lower yourself trying to be accepted by somebody, approved of by someone. If somebody doesn't want to be there, it's not or somebody doesn't want you to have a certain position, or even if you get laid off, it doesn't say anything about you. Sometimes people, are intimidated by people that they perceive to be very powerful. And even like that can also apply to personal relationships. Sometimes people do, get involved with someone and they don't feel worthy of their love. And so they do these things like maybe cheat, or they sabotage the relationship because they don't feel worthy of that person's love. And the other person may feel like it's all about them not being good enough. And that's the crazy thing about it. So you have to really know your worth, and then what other people do has no bearing on how you feel about yourself. The outcome is the King of Swords. This can be like an actual judge rendering a decision, like a divorce. This can be like, I always associate this with Aquarius. I don't know if it is connected to a particular sign, but it's a very detached perspective, the highest level of detachment. And I would even say the self-mastery of detachment, which I would associate with spirituality, meditation, and the mastery of your mind and emotions. I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing where you just pretend that you're trying to spiritualize your pain. I'm talking about being able to rise above the emotional attachments to be able to kind of like detach with love. Because sometimes Scorpio people, when they do like break off with someone or in an attempt to kind of like save face, you might go into this vengeful mode because you feel betrayed or you feel abandoned. And you may feel like they did this to me, I'm going to do something back to them. Like, karma is a female dog. And that's playing God, really, in a lot of ways. Or that's, like, to me, a lower reaction. And not all Scorpio people would do that. Some Scorpio people are very lofty in their dealings with others. And they really understand, Pluto is associated with karma. So it's like a very loaded, it's like a loaded gun. You don't want to play with a loaded gun. So it's like action and reaction. But when you get to a certain level, you have to, they say when somebody is more like spiritually aware, then I think their actions are even more potent. And so they have to really be impeccable with their behavior. And so learning how to manage your very intense emotions can make the difference between whether or not you are able to extricate yourself from a situation cleanly or not. And I picked a clarification card and I got the strength card. And this is just more kind of doubling down with this issue of strength. It's not just like, people tend to think of physical strength, but we're talking here mostly about your inner strength. And part of that is your ability to love yourself regardless of what is happening in your outer world. And loving yourself meaning that you honor yourself. Like I said, that you do not lower yourself chasing after people who are not interested or employers who are not interested. And this is another thing too, like with employers of working overtime, it's like Abraham Hicks uses the term going upstream, meaning that really embracing struggle. And when you find that things are struggling, a person who is a fixed sign may double down because it's like a steamroller effect. So that can just delay the inevitable in realizing that things are not really gelling and that you have to let it go. So I would just say in this period of time that is also a time when your money situation may improve in the Sagittarius season, being your second house. That you really weigh everything to see if you are, working for, if there's an energy exchange there, or if you feel like you're doing so much and getting so little in return, and how that makes you feel. And same thing with relationships. If you are really putting a lot of energy into the relationship and it just doesn't feel like it's being mirrored by the other party. And why, if you feel that sense of like you still want to have them in your life, why is that? Like, what would compel you to do that? Because I think you would find some very interesting insights if you really probe that. Okay, Scorpio, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like an astrological reading or a tarot reading, a personal tarot reading, please click on the link below. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.